Hey, free-to-play gang, welcome back to another video. Now, before we talk about Embla and whether you should be summoning for her based on my opinion, of course, I want to talk a little bit more about the calendar and where we are at right now, because this is also going to matter a lot in making you, or at least helping you make that decision moving forward. So the thing is, currently, as of today, when this video is being recorded, we are currently on the 10th of March, which is a Friday. And what you notice is that in the coming Monday, there will be a preview video, and on the Tuesday itself, there will be the patch notes. And following that, 1 week later, there will be the actual update. So this is our current timeline, and it kind of like falls every 3 weeks, right? So every 3 weeks, you're going to have the same cycle over and over and over again. But one thing that you might notice is that, hey, what is this red number over here? And this red number is actually the anniversary of the game. So if you didn't already know, Dislyte was first launched globally on 10th of May 2022. But the thing is, servers actually opened on the 9th of May 2022. So technically speaking, the 9th of May should be the actual anniversary for this game. Now with that said, we have another 2 more proper banners before the anniversary actually comes. And I do feel like in this update itself, right, this update over here, this is where we will enjoy the anniversary events, and knowing Lilith Games, I'm pretty sure that they're going to do a really good job with their anniversary content. So with that out of the way, there are 2 more banners for us to expect. One is coming in the following week, where we're going to get more info on what's the coming Esper, and the subsequent update afterwards, where we are not sure just yet what the new Esper is going to be, but we can most certainly be sure that there are 2 more Espers coming up really soon. So one is definitely going to be Ethan, I think, and another one I'm not so sure just yet. Hopefully they reintroduce more Espers from different other Pantheons, for example. So why I raise this is so that you have an idea of what's to come and how much resources you should have, because the thing is, if you're going to be summoning in all of these banners, you're not going to have enough currency to save for the anniversary event, and we do not actually know whether there will be any summoning rebates, any free legendaries, any free shimmer legendaries. We are not so sure just yet, but I'm pretty sure that the event is going to be pretty hyped. So do save your currency for the coming anniversary event. It is only 3 more updates away. Or for all I know, it could even come in the following update where they start to churn out a lot of the anniversary events, all the login bonuses and all that. So please keep all of this in mind when you're making a decision whether you want to summon for Embla or not. Alright, so let's move on to the rest of today's video. So I've actually went ahead to do a proper spreadsheet to showcase what Embla is capable of. So over here, this is something that I did, and obviously I copied Kovian from head to toe. Well, for the most part, this is a straight up copy, but I did enhance a little bit on it as well. So shout out to Kovian, thank you for creating a template for me to refer to. So for each of the content in the game, there's going to be 5 rankings, right? So if you are ranked 1 out of 5, then that means that this aspect just completely sucks at that content, and I wouldn't recommend you to try her in that content. And if you're ranked number 2, you are below average and you are an underperformer, and there will be better Espers or maybe even cheaper alternatives for you to use instead of said Esper. And if you're ranked 3, then you're just an average Esper. You are going to be good at that content, but you don't really thrive so well, so to speak. And if you're ranked 4, you're definitely above average and you outshine most of the Espers in the game in the said content. But if you're ranked 5, that means that you're just overpowered for that content. You are the best pick for that content. So for today's video, obviously we're taking a look at Embla, so let's take a look at her strengths and weaknesses. So for her strengths, she has a lot of big news, right? Even her skills themselves do a lot of damage, and her debuffs, her Corrupted Seed, explodes for a lot of damage, be it R0 or R2. And her final strength is definitely her ability to boss very well. So she's really good in taking down bosses so long as they are not immune to debuffs or so long as they can be debuffed in the first place. So that also brings up her weaknesses. So most of her weaknesses are debuff related. So if you are debuff restricted, or the boss is immune, or there is constant cleansing on the other team, then she's not going to strive very well, because she needs to be able to spread that debuff, which means that her debuff needs to be on those enemies, and she needs to kill that enemy so that she can spread more of the debuff outwards. So cleansing is indeed a very terrible way to counter her. And of course, her final weakness is that she cannot debuff when she kills enemies, and this is very important as well. So if you use your 3rd skill, you wipe someone out, you're not going to apply the debuff at all, you're not going to be spreading or infecting other enemies with that debuff. So that is one of her major weaknesses as well. So we're going to start off with the story and events, and I think she's just like below average. She's just a single target damage dealer, and if she kills an enemy too soon, which most of the time she would, then her R2 is actually quite useless as well. So I think she's just a below average performer over here, so not that good. Now in terms of Sonic Rift, like I said, right, her weakness over here, right, she cannot debuff on kill, which means that at R0, even though she's a single target damage dealer, but at R2, her being an AoE damage dealer doesn't make any difference at all, because she's not going to be able to AoE damage when she's killing the enemy immediately. So for Sonic Rift, she's definitely not good. And in terms of Infernis, Flow Runner, Wind Striker, Shimmerer, she strives really well in the Sonic Miracle content, even Flow Runner as well. And the reason why she strives in Flow Runner is number one, her debuff is Silver Rimmed, which means that it's always going to land on anything even if they are type advantageous. And number two, even though her debuff damage can miss, the fact that your allies can apply Disease debuff onto the enemy when they attack an enemy with Corrupted Seed, that's actually going to help out a lot in Flow Runner, because Flow Runner heals himself whenever he attacks. So I think in terms of Sonic Miracle, she's definitely one of the best choices out there right now. And now moving on to Chronos, Apep, and Fafnir, I feel like she's not really good in Chronos, that's why I didn't do a content for her regarding Chronos, and the reason for that is because her debuff, while it cannot miss, the damage done by that debuff can miss. So she's not going to be very consistent, which means I don't really recommend her for Chronos at all. And now for Apep, she's definitely one of the best espers out there because of the fact that all your allies can now apply Diseased and all of your allies are able to cleanse themselves whenever they attack. So now not only do you no longer need Joseph for the Disease debuff, you're also quite well protected because of the cleansing effect that your entire team has just because of one of her Corrupted Seed debuff on the boss. Next up for Fafnir, she's type disadvantageous, so I don't think her multi-hits really matter all that much, she only double hits. But of course I might be completely wrong and she might somehow excel in this content, but for the most part I don't think she's an esper that you want to use in Fafnir. And now for the Desolate Land bosses, we have Shadowfire, Shadowstream, Shadowgale. They are definitely not for her. And the reason for that is you're not able to land debuff on, like, let's say even Shadowfire. So if you're not able to land debuff on the boss, you're not going to be able to perform at all because she's all about her debuff. Now even in the ice stage, you're not even able to debuff the boss, and as such you're not able to infect the other eyes around the boss. So she's definitely not viable for any of the Desolate Lands at all. Definitely not viable. Next up we have the Cube Miracle, and because she's a single target damage dealer at R0, I don't think she performs that way. But at R2 she's able to AoE nuke, and as such, I think she's not bad. I think she's above average in that sense. Now moving on to Sentinel Hunt, this is something that I would like to put more emphasis on because Sentinel Hunt is probably going to be the new PvE endgame. So for the fact that she is so freaking powerful at this current content and potentially the new PvE endgame, I feel like she really deserves a lot more credit because of what she's able to do for the Sentinel Hunt. So I've already done a lot of videos covering her for several different content. And if you still haven't checked it out, go ahead and watch the Sentinel Hunt video where she's able to do a lot of damage just on her own. Now next up we have the Spatial Tower and Temporal Tower, and they are kind of similar content, so I'm just going to grade them similarly. So at R0 she's not going to be so good except for the boss flaws, but then again there are much better alternatives. And at R2 she's able to one-shot a lot of the waves, which makes climbing quite easy, but at the same time if you have a Gaius, then I think Gaius is still going to outperform her anyway. So in that sense I don't think she's that competitive. But she's still going to be really good against bosses, so I've actually used her in a Ferberter run that got me like a 2-minute timer or something like that, 2 minutes 40 something seconds. So she has a major impact against bosses. Now Infinity Tower, I do feel like the enemies have a lot more HP, which means she's actually a lot more impactful in that sense, because she's still able to one-shot some of the floors. So because of that, I've actually used her to clear floor 1 to floor 10 super freaking quickly. I think it just took me about 1 hour to clear the whole thing. So she's definitely very viable for Infinity Tower, at least for R2, right? Now next up we have Calamity Tower, and like I showcased before, she is very powerful at R2 because she's able to clear the whole floor, but she's not viable, and in fact she's less viable than the rest of the tower content because of the turn limit in this content. So because of turn limit, you don't really want to bring single target damage dealers. It might be better to bring AoE damage dealers, so probably not Embla for the Calamity Island unless you have her at R2. And now we move on to the rest of the PvP content, right? So as you can see, I don't think she's really that good at R0 for both the Point War and the warm-up matches, but I think she has a little bit more value in Point War at R2, and the reason for that is you're able to combo her with some of the espers, like let's say Lewis, right? If you have an R6 Lewis, which all of you guys do not have, she's able to land a defense break on her 3rd skill and then land the debuff, and afterwards Lewis can follow up, kill that enemy, and land an AoE nuke onto everyone. So there's a double AoE in this current setup, and that is a lot of spillover damage. So she's only really viable in Point War if you have the correct setup, which brings me to the point in warm-up match, and the reason why I rate her a little bit lower is because you need a setup in order for her to work. But the thing is, it's very easy for you to break that setup by just banning the correct espers that break the whole thing, so I don't think that she actually matters that much in warm-up matches. But as for Holo Battle, what you can see is that her being at R0, R2 has no difference, and the reason for that is because you don't really care too much about AoE damage in Holo Battles unless you're using a Gaius. And for the most part, you can always pick your fights. You can pick defenses that are not squishies, you can pick defenses that do not have immunities, cleansing, or any of that sort, right? You can just pick the correct defense and you can use her very effectively. So I think she's still a little bit better in Holo Battle, although I don't really recommend it because most of the defenses that you're gonna meet are either very squishy or they have a lot of cleansing, or they are like just straight up immune, right? With like all the height defenses and all that. Or maybe even JJ defenses as well. So all in all, her grading is going to be 3.2 at R2 and 2.4 at R0. And that's going to set her at an Esper rating of B. However, not all of you actually care about all of these content, which is why I have checkboxes here. So let's say I'm an endgame player, right? All I care about right now is probably PvP. I care about the Ritual Miracles, I care about Dislyte Lens, and I probably care a lot about Sentinel Hunt as well. So that means that I can actually uncheck a lot of these things, right? I can uncheck all the Sonic Miracles as well. I can uncheck the Cube Miracle. I can uncheck the Spatial Tower and Temporal Tower. So all that I'm left with is an Esper rating of C, and that might seem bad, but the thing is, these are just the content that mean a lot to me right now. But for some of you guys, especially if you're in the mid game, you might not actually have the same rating, or you might not have the same requirements as I do. So maybe if you're in the mid game right now, you do not care too much about the story, you do not care about the Sonic Rift because this is very easy for you to clear. You might care about the Sonic Miracles, you might care about the Ritual Miracles as well. You may not care about Dislyte Lens because they are just so far beyond your reach right now. And you probably don't care about the Infinity Tower because it's a little bit harder for you to get to. And of course, you might not even want to care about PvP because yeah, that is just way beyond your reach right now. So going by this new setup, what you're left with is an Esper that is actually rated S tier for you. Which means that for the content that you might care a lot more, she's actually going to be able to perform really well in that regard. So I think I'll share this Excel spreadsheet somewhere online or something like maybe in my Google Drive. You guys can have access to it, you guys can download it and just like, I don't know, play around with this spreadsheet and choose exactly what you want and what you don't want, because I cannot make that decision for you, right? So now back to the question, should you or should you not summon for Embla? I cannot answer that question, you have to decide for yourself. But like I shared at the start of the video, please take a look at the calendar once again, just so that you have a better idea of how much currency you want to save before the anniversary event comes around again, because there's going to be a lot of things for you to expect, and there's probably going to be a lot of summons that you might need to hold on to. But until then, this is the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, it really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now with that said, this has been Derry Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.